welcome to Sister Talks. We are so glad that you ladies have decided
Welcome,
to join
welcome.
us. Yes, indeed. We're super excited about our guest today. We're super excited about this episode, but I'll get to them in a moment. Sister Talks is a platform where we as women get together. We share our stories with each other. We share the ups and downs of our lives, the victories and the difficulties in our lives. Our desire is to reach back and bring our sisters that's trailing behind us. We want to pull them forward, and those that are in front of us, we want to push them forward to the greatness that God has for them. We want to thank you all for joining us and taking the time to spend this day with us. And my name is Lisa. I am originally from New York City. I live here in the Metro Atlanta area. I am a pastor, a mom of 4 children. I'm married for 28 years, and I am one of your hosts, along with Alexis.
Hello, everybody. We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, to Sister Talks. I am also one of the hosts, Alexis. I'm a nurse. I live also in the Atlanta area, and I'm so happy to have you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We have some beautiful ladies here with us today, and this episode is going to be awesome. I feel like we have so much that we want to talk about, so much that we want to educate you guys on. We have Danielle here, we have Malele, and we also have Bianca. All these ladies are experts in their field, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a moment. But let me first introduce the episode and what we're going to talk about today. So we are going to talk about self-care in all aspects of a woman's mind, the body, and the soul. We all know that we as women wear so many different hats. We have so many different responsibilities, so many different roles that we participate in. Just as our lives move forward, just naturally, we start off, just giving just a kind of like a timeline. We start off just as ourselves, just walking through life, trying to accomplish our own individual goals. We meet somebody, we have kids, we become caregivers, we become mothers, we become wives, and a lot of times women are lost in the roles that we play, whether that be with our professions, whether that be with being a wife, being a mother. And it's really difficult for us to kind of ground ourselves and to take the time to focus on ourselves. But it is so essential that we do that, because in order for us to give and give and give and to be present in the roles that we play and to be present for the purpose that we have in our lives, we have to have a reservoir to pull from.
Yes.
Have to have something that we get our energy from, that we get our motivation from. And if we're not careful, we become depleted and we become exhausted and burnt out and kind of resentful of can become resentful of some of the roles that we play and the energy that it takes from us. So self-care, I think a lot of times is misunderstood. Sometimes it's viewed as a luxury, or sometimes viewed as it's kind of like a lavish thing that we do every once in a while. But like I said, it's so essential that we pour back into ourselves. Yes. So that we have the tools and the energy to be our best selves every single day, and to show up 100% for the things we as women, for ourselves and for the loved ones around us. So with that being said, like I said, we have our mind that we need to care for. We have our bodies, our physical bodies that we need to care for. And then we also have our souls and who we are as people and our spiritual selves that we have to nourish as well. So each of you ladies demonstrates and represents each level and each aspect of what we're talking about. So I want to introduce you guys. We'll start with the mind, Miss Danielle. Just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, the work that you do, and who you are.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me, ladies. I appreciate you so much for reaching out, and I'm so excited about this platform today. I am Danielle Bondage, as they said, a licensed clinical social worker, as well as the director and a therapist at the Life Development Center, which is an extension ministry at Chapel Hill Church. We are in the process of a name change. We'll soon be Chapel Hill Counseling Center, so that's exciting. We have a lot of new changes upcoming. But we are a center that essentially we serve the community as well as our church body. We see people ranging in all ages from 4 to 84. We work, a lot of us work with women, of course, myself mainly, is with teen girls and adult women just struggling with challenges that have to do with juggling life, grief, trauma, depression, anxiety, and then of course there are some more intense diagnoses, bipolar, schizophrenia, all of these different things that we hear about. Um, we have other counselors that work here as well that serve our male population. But I focus primarily, once again, on women and teen girls.
Right.
So I have been in this area or this field for almost 18 years now. And so I've seen a wide variety of different challenges. But I've seen a lot of themes, a lot of consistencies in regards to, what we have to juggle as women and what it looks like in regards to, just providing ourselves with that self-care that we've already been talking
Right,
about.
right.
I am married as well. I forgot to say that piece. Sorry, my sweet husband. But 8 years now, and then I have a 6.5-year-old little boy. So a lot of different roles, but all good.
Yes. Thank you so much, Danielle, for joining us. Welcome.
Yes.
So we're going to switch over to the body. Malele, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Absolutely. Good evening, ladies. My name is Malele Francis, and I'm an OBGYN in the Stella Smyrna area in Georgia. Been with WellStar practicing here this will be my 16th year here, and really just enjoy women's health and helping women to advocate for themselves in terms of their health care and their bodies for all aspects of their life. So seeing, women's health care and OBGYN, I get to see, some of the young teens and young ladies on through, their middle age and pregnancies, and then care for them as they're older too. So it's a joy. And so I really enjoy doing that. I've been in practice this is my 19th year, and it's good. It's good. I am married and going into my 23rd year of marriage with a wonderful husband, and we've got 2 teenagers, 17, son and a daughter, twins, who are in their college process, so that's been exciting. And just pleased to be invited to join this group of ladies here and just share what I have. Hopefully it'll be something for somebody, I don't know. We'll see. And then just really excited to kind of learn learn from the other ladies too.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Welcome. And Miss Bianca.
Hey, thank you so much once again, Lisa and Alexis. It's an honor. I'm humbled. I'm privileged to be a part, and even just to learn from Danielle and Malele today. I'm so excited. I don't consider myself an expert, but I will bring whatever I feel that is going to be beneficial and valuable to you guys. I have been in ministry for close to 19 years now. I'm a lead pastor with my husband right outside of Chicago. We've been here for about 4 years. We were on staff at a church previously for 13 years doing multiple roles. And then we met in ministry school where I went for 2 years and my husband went for 3. And so we feel this call into ministry, and it's not a job for us. It's something that we feel called to do. And every year has gotten better. It's hard. It gets harder, but it is worth it because we just love seeing people's lives changed and people growing from next step to next step. And to see that it's rewarding. And no matter how hard it is. So I'm also a mother, and I have 2 fantastic kids. I have a daughter who's 12. Her name is Makani. And I have a son who is Kai. He's 8 years old. And so in addition to lead pastoring, I also homeschool our kids.
Wow.
So as Alexis has said, we wear different hats. And my demands are probably not unique in any way, shape, or form. I believe all of us have unique demands. And so this topic, I love that you're doing this topic because it's so important, spiritual, mental, and physical health. Because if we don't take that time, like you guys said, we're just not going to be able to add value to those around us. And that's I feel like that's a God-given gift, is that we want to help others while we're here. So, but thanks again for having me.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, I have a shameless plug. I'm just gonna put myself out there and lay my soul bare. So, Malele is my gynecologist, y'all. Yes, she is, and she
Yes,
has been for several years.
it's a pleasure. You're so
And she's
sweet.
fabulous. So, if you're looking for a gynecologist, just
Oh my God.
Well, it's my pleasure. I enjoy seeing you all the time. You just, I'm like, oh, she's coming. It's going to be great. And so,
I love it. That's awesome.
we have to make sure that we don't spend half our time catching up. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Let's talk about your health today.
And you guys look like
The ladies behind you are going to be mad.
Gotta reel her in.
She has to reel me.
I know.
And I have another shameless plug
It's a
as
pleasure.
it pertains to Bianca, in that I had a call on my life years ago to go into ministry, to go into pastoral ministry, and I kind of ran from it for a long time, but I knew it was still there, and it was just kept popping its head up. And so years later, I met this beautiful little spunky Polynesian beauty, and I asked her, I just approached her and told her what was on my heart and the direction I felt that I was being led into. And she kind of pushed me forward. She catapulted me. She told me where to go, how to do it, what to look for. And I did. And so she's a part of my story, in that she is the person that God used to fulfill his purpose in my life. So I'm really blessed by that as well. And I promise you, I'm going to be laying on a chair in Danielle's office really soon.
I do have that cliche couch. I've got a couch. I do whatever you need. We can turn the lights low, put the music on, put some aromatherapy in the air.
All the vibes.
All that.
I love it. I should have been here a long time ago, Danielle. I promise you that. So, ladies, we're so excited that you're here, and so we want to start. We want to start from the top, and we want to go down, not from the top to the bottom, because we don't look at it that way. Just from the top, our mind, and we're going to start looking at the internal. Although everything that we're talking about today has to do with outside and the inside of us as women. And so I want to start with the mind, because what we think about as it pertains to our self-care and the mindsets that we cultivate, it determines the course of our life to a very great degree. And so I want to start by just picking Danielle's brain a little bit. And so Danielle, what do you see as a counselor, as a licensed counselor in your field? What do you see that for we as women, what are we not doing, or what are we missing in terms of cultivating a healthy mental health, and how does that present itself? You talked about earlier about all these major terminologies that we use, like schizophrenia and bipolar and everything else. And so if even there's many of us that are not clinically diagnosed with that, what are you seeing that we're missing in terms of us developing a healthy mindset and a healthy mental health habits for our lives?
Well, a lot of times, one of the consistent things that I see is that women put themselves last. We've talked about all these different roles that we have, and I think that we are born as nurturers, as caregivers. Like, it's just ingrained in us to do that. And so, as we begin to add on to our roles with mother, with child, with friend, sister, all these different things, we truly do put ourselves last. And so I'm constantly saying the word balance, 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 and really encouraging women to figure out what that looks like for them. The physical symptoms that come a lot of times as a result of not striving for that balance, for not taking that time for themselves, can manifest in headaches and sleep difficulties, appetite difficulties, difficult, just managing stress. Anxiety comes on a lot of times. So, people are having a difficult time breathing, tightness in the chest, and they're going to the emergency room thinking, that there's something that's, physically wrong with them internally that's bigger than anxiety. And so many times I'm having women come to me saying, my physician suggested that I come and speak to someone because these are symptoms of stress and anxiety. And so, a lot of what I do for so many women is really just helping them to come back to basics. I say a lot of times, and re-identify those simple pleasures in life that they used to find just peace and joy from. Even as a child or a teen, as a young adult, there are things that we love to do. Crossword puzzles, scrapbooking, taking a walk. There's limitless things. But we push them aside and almost forget that it brought us that peace and joy, So coming back to those things and again, trying to find that balance.
Yeah. So when I grew up, the only people that went to get professional help were people that had that we termed, and I know this is not an appropriate term, but we said, oh, they're crazy, so they need to go to somebody. Yeah. And so I know there's a lot of stereotypes associated, although it has gotten considerably better with people willing to talk about mental health issues and self-care, because it really is self-care when we decide that we're going to get mental health help for the challenges that we go through. So what for me, I don't really think for me, and I have to promise you that I've needed mental health assistance probably all throughout my life, and could have definitely benefited from it even today. But I always felt that, okay, because I have my girlfriends and I have somebody to talk to, and I could talk to them. But really, if I'm honest about it, they really haven't. They've been good listeners, but they really haven't added so much to my life in terms of my mental health that it really brought closure or brought healing into some significant parts. I still was contending with them, which leads me to believe that maybe I really needed some real professional counseling. So what do we do to ourselves as women? What are these obstacles that prevent us from coming and getting the help that's readily available to us?
Well, Lisa, I think that one of the things that you said, you said it wasn't the politically correct term, it's crazy, but truly there is still a stigma, in our society that says, yes, if you go to a counselor or mental health professional, that means that you're not strong enough, that you're weak, that you maybe aren't praying enough, you're not a good enough Christian, you're not believing enough. Maybe you're just falling short because performance. We're in such a performance-driven society, and so I think pride too a lot of times gets in the way to say, if I go and talk to somebody, that means that maybe I am crazy. But I have people come in here from all walks of life, all different cultures, demographics. With all different career levels, and sometimes people just need to come in and they just need to vent. Yeah. They need to get an objective perspective. I have people that come in one or two times, they're good. They're like, okay, yes, that clicked for me, but just truly being able to have that objective perspective and speak to someone who is trained in essence connecting dots. We may see and hear things that you never recognized as being something that holds you back or prevents you, or maybe an area that you're lacking forgiveness in that's preventing you from going forward. So we just truly as mental health professionals, I'll say, come from either needing it ourselves at one point in time in life, and sometimes that's ongoing. We need that maintenance too. Somebody close to us has struggled with something in life, so it's just a good outlet. It's just a good outlet. Above all, it's a good outlet.
I have a question. So as somebody that is in the healthcare industry, dealing with mental health, you listen to everybody's problems, you listen and give advice and connect those dots, and that's your job. That's what you were trained and educated to do. But for yourself, I can only imagine, because I'm a nurse, so there are certain situations that I have seen or I have experienced that sometimes it's hard to disconnect from work. Sometimes it's hard to, go home and not think about that case or that patient or that scenario. But for you, you're kind of bombarded with everybody dumping their issues and trying to problem solve and trying to connect those dots. How do you kind of empty your mental space? And how do you perform self-care mentally for you? Because you contend with so many other people's issues. How do you deal with your own, find that balance for yourself?
Yes.
That's a great question. And that's still a balance that I'm trying to cultivate within myself. But, I think that another key element that I really do encourage is self-awareness, knowing what are some of those areas that may trigger us and send us to a negative place of thinking, negative emotion. And then from that, our body, paying attention to what kind of triggers our body is letting us know, hey, we need to go sit down somewhere. We need to go, for a walk, and then, recognizing again, what are those things that do bring you peace? I'm one of those people, I very much have to have moments of solitude to just, regroup and silence my thoughts, calm my thoughts. Since we are collectively here as a group of women talking about mind, body, and spirit, which I very much see as overlapping.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So that spiritual piece for me is above all, the thing that helps me to release the most, because, recognizing that still, it is a gifting that I've been given, I believe, to listen and to advise, but, realizing that once that person leaves, my office, I've done and planted all the seeds that God has given me for that moment.
Right.
And then truly laying the rest at his feet. And then also, I'll say, looking to my own colleagues, just to kind of to vent to and bounce ideas off of is really important.
Yeah.
Because family and friends, they're not really equipped to speak into the things that I experience in here.
So Malele and Bianca, I have a question for you from what Danielle just said, and I'll speak to Malele first. How do you know? And this is a dual question. How do you know when you have to put the brakes on and say this person needs more than what I have to give them? So like when a lady comes in your office and you see her every week. She calls you all the time because she has something going on with her JJ, okay? And you know that you checked her from the rooter to the tutor and everything is fine. But when do you come to the point where you say, this is not a physical issue, this is a mental health issue? Just hold that for a second. And even with you, Bianca, like people come to you as a pastor and they're looking for you to help them walk through something. When do you look at it and say, you know what, you need mental health help? Certainly spiritual help, but you also need mental health assistance. So Malele, could you speak into that, hon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes, as you build relationships with people too. I mean, sometimes you haven't had that opportunity and they're just coming to your office for the first time. But other times, if you have the opportunity to build relationships, you can ask those questions about what else is going on. And sometimes it just takes a few more questions just to kind of see, okay, this is something more than just, I have this pain in my right lower side, or, and so kind of getting a sense of just what else is going on. And someone's like, I mean, sometimes folks will you'll just ask what sounds like a simple question and it'll just bubble up into more emotions. And then you kind of realize, okay, this is something more than I have a pain or I have a discharge or I have, this has been, or sometimes it's been something that's been going on for years. It's been going on for years. I've seen all these folks and nobody can figure it out. There is something that maybe, physically that needs to be addressed. But, if someone has been carrying some sort of, a lot of times it's vague, it's hard to put your finger on, and you really have explored all the physical options, and then you say, okay, so sometimes it's just a matter of just kind of having that also in your thought process of, and sometimes for women, unfortunately, physical complaints, if they're seeing I won't say the wrong provider, but a provider who's not thinking outside the box, if they're as a female, they may say, well, it's all in your head. And so you have to be mindful too, that sometimes it's not just all in your head. Something physical going on. But if you really do feel like you have evaluated the physical things and not come up with anything, then sometimes it is a matter of a spiritual or a mental or emotional challenge that is manifesting as pain or discomfort or some other physical thing. So that's, I think, just kind of asking those questions, having it kind of on your list of possibilities somewhere, and then that you kind of probe a little bit more to kind of see if there's a need for referral to a counselor. I like what you said about figuring out what brings someone peace and joy. I mean, I think that's so important, and I think that does change through a woman's life too. As a woman, it might have been figuring out your career and your life goals in that regard, figuring out your partner and your relationships, and then your family, and then So I think it changes too, and so how those pieces fit together change throughout different cycles of our lives, and I think sometimes it takes a while to realize that too, that things didn't move, and understanding that, I think, is so important as well. So I think I wrote that down. I like that. What brings me peace and joy, because I think as we go through our phases of life, we have to keep that in mind and figure out it's not easy time,
So. Miss Bianca. I know you're like Danielle. You hear it all the time. Everybody wants to come pastor. I have a problem.
Yep.
Yes, it is a privilege, and also sometimes it can feel like a burden, and we have to really pay attention to ourselves as individuals and recognize first that if we're not okay, we're not going to be able to help anyone else.
That's right.
And one thing that I found is, as I try to take time to differentiate where a person truly is coming from. So Malele, you said you like to ask questions so that you can find out more information. And I think that's usually my first goal, is to ask questions and kind of diagnose, where is this person? Because many times people come with their problems, spiritual problems, mental problems, even physical problems, but they don't really know what their problem is. Sometimes they think, I need this, or, hey, would you pray about this, Bianca, because X, Y, Z. And the more I ask questions, the more clues I get to where they're really at spiritually. And so I don't, and I hope this doesn't sound like I'm a bad listener, but sometimes when people are asking for prayer, I'm not really listening to just what they're saying. I'm really tuning in, because you'll hear where people are at. And then when I determine that, I kind of decide, okay, does this person really want to grow? Do they really want help? Or do they just need someone to sit in their misery with them?
Oh, that's good.
Amen.
I know I've thrown many parties for myself. I sent out the invite. I went to the party. I wore a party hat, and I just sulked in my misery until God just woke me up and is like, okay, are you done? Are you done? Do you want to get up? Do you want to grow, Bianca? And so that time alone for us as leaders is crucial. When Danielle said that, I was like, yes, amen, because I need that so that when I go and deal with other people's pain, I'm strong in every area, because we are a spirit with the soul in a body. Everything is connected, and if one's out of alignment,
that's right.
We're going to be out of alignment in the other areas too. And so and so I've definitely had people that, wanted counseling, and I knew this is the next step is professional counseling, and so I want to encourage you with your job, because I have found that counselors are some of the most mentally strong people I know, because of what you're able to deal with, and to be able to process that is a huge weight. So thank you for what you do. And Lele, I just can't wait to pick your brain, because I think this is probably my area that I don't know the most. I feel like I'm misinformed when it comes to my physical body. I love learning about nutrition and exercise, but when it comes to interacting with my doctors, I feel a little bit intimidated because I'm not informed enough. So if there's any resources that you have that would say, okay, here's some great questions when you go into your doctor's appointment, here's anything, any books or resources, if you have any recommendations, I would love to hear those.
I mean, I honestly think, I think, honestly, the internet and Google is a blessing and a curse at the same time. So I think that, as you go to your physician and you hear potential diagnoses or options about what could be going on, using your, resources to kind of gather your information about what that might be for further discussion is important. Now, you don't necessarily have to kind of take it to the nth degree and I'm going to die, because we can do that as well. But just, making sure you come with your questions, you have your notebook, you make sure that when you leave, you do feel like your questions have been answered is important. I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 because we, as surgeons, we have your appointment time and we've got other patients and that sort of thing. But at the same time, we do want to I want to make sure that you feel like your questions have been answered. And if you have a physician who is, your physician should feel like they want to make sure that you feel comfortable when you leave as well. Mm-hmm. So the things I think coming armed with questions about, what's been going on with you, being able to give a good, concise history for yourself. You obviously, some people I've met, they don't really know what their past surgery was or why they had it or when they had it. Those are bits that we always use to kind of put the whole picture together. And then as we're thinking, and thinking, well, it could be this, it could be that, let's get more information here. What, you're asking, well, what does that test entail? What do I need to know? What can I expect? When can we talk about it again and how? Am I going to just get a call from the nurse, or am I going to get an email, or are you going to call me, or am I going to come back to the appointment? And you should be comfortable with whatever process they have set up for you there. And I think that's just part of just advocating for ourselves and our health, Mm-hmm. It's so like if you went to some other business, you'd be asking, well, why are we doing this? What's the diagnosis on my car? What's, what am I going to get out of this?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So, like Bianca said, we always focus on like working out and our physical health in regards to like how we look and how our weight loss is and how toned we are. There's a huge push for physical health. I think at this point, people want to be vegan. People want to watch what they eat and worry about organic and worried about going to the gym. And that's all great things. I think that's something to be aware of. Those kinds of things are great. But as women, we also have the added responsibility of worrying about our reproductive and our sexual health. Mm-hmm. We are life givers. That's how our bodies are made. And so we, like I said, we have a responsibility to focus on that too. So, Malele, what do you see in your office, or what do you see with your patients, or the gaps that you see of taking care of their reproductive health? We all know that we have to go to the gynecologist once a year to make sure everything is okay. But what other things do you see that we could be doing better, or we could be doing just daily, that can help to add to our reproductive and sexual health?
I think that in regards to your question, Alexis, in terms of what we can do to manage our sexual and reproductive physical health, in our, we talk about a lot about diet and nutrition as well. And I do think that I know that there's a huge connection between our weight and our mental health, and our sexual health, and our reproductive health. So, unfortunate one-to-one correlation. I mean, certainly, the thinnest, most fit woman could have issues with her sexual and reproductive health, and the, more obese woman or less healthy person may not have any issues. So it's not, an absolute, but I think the two are intimately connected. And I don't think people recognize that enough, to be honest with you. I mean, I've had people, losing weight or being at a healthy weight and having a healthy body image affects how you interact with your partner, right? So if you feel good about your body, you're gonna want to have sex, and sex is gonna be better. So there's not a pill necessarily that I can give you. It's part of this conversation about our connection between our mind, body, and our spirit.
Yeah.
But also physically, like actually biologically, if someone, some people do have conditions where their weight may affect their ability to cycle regularly, to ovulate regularly. So decreasing your weight and getting to a better body weight can actually physiologically improve your reproductive health too. And certainly some people still need assistance with reproduction and that sort of thing. But there is a very strong correlation there. So I think just acknowledging that and recognizing that and working towards that is very important. I mean, I struggle with various aspects of our body image and our weight. And I hear people come and say, well, I can't lose weight. I've tried everything, and really, have we tried everything? Like, have we really tried? There's no magic to it. We've got to burn more calories than we take in, except for, again, there are some people who do like have either some, physiologic issue that affects their weight, or maybe even an emotional issue that affects their weight. So I'm certainly not discounting that, but for the majority of us, it really is a matter of, I had a young lady the other day who was wanting to, get pregnant and just feel better about herself and just regulate her cycles, that sort of thing. And she said, well, I'm trying to lose weight, but I can't. And I said, yes. And I hear people say that. And I said, a lot of times we haven't really done all we can do in terms of really monitoring our exercise and our eating habits and what we're taking in. And she came back to me a little while later and she said, when you said that, and I actually thought, have I really done everything? So, and she said, I really just focused more on what I was taking in, my activity level. And she said, yeah, and I actually have been starting to lose some weight and I feel good about myself. And so really being honest with ourselves is critical in that regard. And so I do think there's a huge connection between our diet, our exercise, our emotional state, our physical well-being, and just how we feel about ourselves. So I think just recognizing those connections, acknowledging them, and then kind of making this very step-by-step plan to kind of address them. I do tell people who say, I haven't been exercising, I havenent been eating right. Well, today's a new day. We get to start over, thankfully, hopefully, anew each day. So we get a new chance to do better every day. We should really take advantage of that.
Well, I have one doctor question. Doctor,
Sure.
okay? and we talk about this as women. When did the shift occur that women didn't need to get a pap smear every year? Because all the years when I was growing up, we got one every single year. And so now it's every 3 years. You know me, and I say, no, I want mine every year. I insist on it. But why did that shift take place? And is it actually necessary from your professional perspective?
So the shift took place several years ago. But public health officials, they did a fantastic job of training us that we need a pap exam every year. And the thing I want to clarify too is when we say pap smear as a physician, we mean the actual physical collection of cells from your cervix to screen for cervical cancer. That's a pap smear.
Okay.
Now, to do a pap smear, we have to do a pelvic exam. We have to insert the speculum. We have to in the vagina. A pelvic exam without the need for pap smear screening because we learned more about what causes abnormal changes on the cervix. We've learned, you may have probably heard about HPV, human papillomavirus. There's a vaccine that's available for our teens and and women. And so as we learned about HPV and how it functions, we know it's a slow growing process. If it affects the cervix adversely, it's a slow process. And we found that most people who have HPV, if it changes the cells on their cervix, it's a mild change that will oftentimes get better on their own. And so by doing this more frequently, we were picking up these very mild changes that were allowing us to need to do additional testing. And it was just, it was, I won't say unnecessary, but it was just more than we needed. And so by spacing the PAPs out every 3 years, or in some cases every 5, but 5 is a lot to wrap your mind around because then we would again. So 3 years seems to be a nice sweet spot. We are able to pick up those abnormalities still in their early changes, do the additional testing we might need, treat any severe abnormalities that we have, but at the same time, not putting people at increased risk for developing cancers, but also not putting people at increased risk for needing testing they might not need, testing that causes anxiety. So it just kind of seems to be that sweet spot there. Just like for, say, colonoscopy. You don't need a colonoscopy every year. You need a colonoscopy every 10 years based on your history and that sort of thing. Or, mammograms we do say once a year, but there are some tests that we don't need, screening tests that are not necessary every year. And I think because we have more information about how HPV works on the cervix, we've been able to kind of find that sweet spot for screening so we don't miss anything bad, but we don't over-screen people as well. So I think hopefully that helps. And I think that's why it kind of has changed over the time. It's just been additional the pelvic exam and the GYN exam and seeing your gynecologist on an annual basis is still recommended. But do you need that specific Pap smear every year? Maybe not, depending on your previous Pap history.
Got you. Okay. I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. But so I'm seeing, like, when I remember following you, because I used to shadow Dr. Francis when I was in undergrad at Georgia State. And I found something very interesting. A lot of people are extremely uneducated about their bodies, especially when it comes to their vaginas. I remember, I don't know if this was in nursing school or with you, Dr. Francis, but I remember a specific situation where this young lady came into the office and she had severe pain in her lower abdominal area. It turns out that she had pelvic inflammatory disease. But also, the healthcare provider, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, was like, you know you have an odor and some discharge. Did you notice that? She was like, no, I thought that was normal. I thought that smelling fishy or foul was just something that I had to deal with, for the rest of my life. And I thought it just, if I take a shower, then it'll be fine. And I was just like, whoa, like, you didn't think that, first of all, pelvic inflammatory disease is not an overnight thing. It takes some time to develop. And you have severe crippling, doubling over in pain, discomfort, and then you have vaginal discharge that has an odor. There's something wrong. And why did it take you so long to come? Or, you could suffer damage to your reproductive system for waiting that long to treat those kinds of things, especially pelvic inflammatory disease. And I just found it baffling that she just didn't feel the need to come in earlier. She thought that she had to contend with the pain and the discomfort and the discharge and the vaginal odor and think that, I'm just going to take a shower, it's going to go away, I'm going to put a heat back on my stomach and it's going to be fine. And it just became blaringly obvious, just the miseducation or the just not educating in our communities for younger women. What do you see, like, as far as just like normal, like little things that people come into your office and you're just like, well, we need to be educated a little bit more in this area, because what are the common like missteps or common misunderstandings that you see in your office?
So, pelvic inflammatory disease is usually typically caused by a gonorrhea or a chlamydia infection, sexually transmitted infection that someone didn't recognize they had, because you don't always have discharge or symptoms from it, and it has initially affected the cervix and ascended into the uterus and the fallopian tubes and caused severe inflammation and then the pain that young lady was having. And that typically does bring folks in eventually because they're having such severe pain. And so I think part of education is just protecting our bodies from sexually transmitted infections. Typically, the classic case is someone who has either a new partner or perhaps multiple partners and they haven't used condoms. And so making sure that we have ownership and love enough of our bodies that we say, well, we're going to either use a condom if we have multiple partners. We're going to protect ourselves first. And so that's critical there. And then sometimes, though, people have partners who have other partners. And so you don't know. And so that can happen too. So it's nobody's fault necessarily. But I think certainly we do have to be empowered enough to say, I'm using a condom, like it or not, kind of thing. And that's probably the biggest thing there. And then in terms of our vaginal health, odor, discharge, that sort of thing, the vagina is a living, breathing organ. It's a self-cleaning organ. It will typically, left to its own devices, take care of itself. But there are certainly things that can upset the balance in our vaginas that will cause odor, discharge, irritation, things of that nature. And so, and everybody's body has a different odor to it. And it's not always necessarily bad. It's just, we all have our own underarm odor, and our, we sweat. There's sweat glands under your armpits and under, various parts of your body and in the vaginal area too. So sweaty areas sometimes stink. But you're right. You shouldn't have a offensive, consistent, persistent odor from the vagina. And if you do, then that's time to get into your doctor, right? And allow us to see, what's going on. Is it an STD? Is it just an imbalance in the vagina that's caused yeast or bacterial infection or something like that we can treat? And sometimes these things come and go, we can't promise you that you're never going to get another yeast infection, never going to get another bacterial infection, but we certainly can try to work with folks to make sure that they're few and far between, that people are comfortable and that sort of thing. So I think and we don't need a lot of scented soaps or vaginal douches, or people are asking a lot about steaming now and whether that's recommended. And it's not recommended, we can't, there's not really I guess it's been around for a long, long time. I don't want anyone to burn themselves with steam. I don't want them to, and thankfully I haven't seen anybody coming with burns or anything like that. Could it backfire and upset the balance of the vagina? For some people it could, if they have a sensitivity to some of the things in the steam. Whether or not they're going to help improve your reproductive or sexual health, probably not. So those are things that to keep in mind as well. So I think just having a sense of what's normal for you, and if that kind of falls off and you say, okay, this discharge discharge comes and goes through our natural hormonal cycle. Our discharge is sometimes more mucousy, like snot. It may be more thicker, like kind of sticky, and that's normal. So different parts of our cycle, our discharge will change, and so it doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means your hormones have changed your cervical and vaginal discharge, appropriately. But if it smells funny, if it's itchy, if it's burny, if it's irritating, well then you need to go and get that checked out. Or if you have risk factors for potential STDs, you need to get that checked.
Well, Bianca, I have a question for you, sweetie. So we've done a lot of talking today about our mind and our body, which I feel like I'm in class. I'm just sitting straight up. I'm learning, and I think Malele, we need to do this more often.
That's sorry, we charge you by the hour. Exactly.
Like a sister talk group.
I'm ready for Danielle and Bianca because I got some questions for them too. So let's move on.
Okay, so we know that we're made up more. We're more than our mind and our body. We're also our soul, spirit, and we know that we like sometimes people ask me, Bianca, I don't know if they've asked you this question, like what is our soul, and what is the purpose of our soul? When we think of the spirit, we always think of that connection that we have to our Creator, to God. And when we would think of our soul, it causes a little bit more confusion when we talk about that. So I kind of help people to understand that I give them this picture, and I say, well, God forbid you were in a fire, or you were in a car accident, and it completely changed your outward appearance. Would you cease to be who you are in your personhood? That person that makes up Lisa, that crazy, outgoing, quirky girl, will she? I may think differently as a result of what I see on the outside. But aside from that, that's just dealing with the trauma of it. Aside from that, does it change who I am as a person? Does it change my fears? Does it change my emotional stability? Does it change my personality? Does it interfere with my connection to God? And I would say it absolutely, most certainly does. And so what would you say, Bianca, to women that say, hey, you know what? I'm good. I got it together. I feel good. I look good. I'm doing great in my career. And, I'm enjoying life. I'm traveling. I have a great man. I got a great family. I'm this, that, and the other. And I don't need all that spiritual stuff. I don't really think that I'm good. I'm good. What would you say to that person that feels like they have these two areas from what they see under control and they got a handle on it? But there's a component of their DNA, their complete makeup that is a part of their spiritual self. But they said that, and we as human beings have this tendency of kind of neglecting that area. And so how would you address that to women and say, you know what, I'm good, I'm okay?
That is a fantastic question, and the answer is probably going to be very unpopular, but I'm okay with being unpopular.
Yes.
Because I'm about truth.
Yes.
My life is about truth and finding truth, living truth out, finding areas of deception that I have lived with, that have imprisoned me and held me back. And so, honestly, I believe that mindset, and we all deal with it, so I'm not just preaching. I'm saying this is something that we all have weaknesses, is I would say that's more of a mindset that is rooted in pride.
Yeah.
And when you think you're good, and it's easy to have a season where you're saying, okay, professionally, I'm successful, in my family, I'm successful, maybe even physically, the way I appear, in my health, I'm successful. It's so easy to get this feeling of, well, I'm good. But in reality, when you take time, that's why it's so important that those moments of solitude that Danielle was talking about, it's because then you can't run from yourself anymore. You can't run from what's inside of your heart. You can't run from the issues beneath the surface. Insecurities rise up. And all of us we all are built with this hunger inside of us to be satisfied spiritually. So whether you admit it or not, it's something inside of us. And if we're honest, if we take some time by ourselves and really allow God to speak to us, we're going to realize I'm empty. And we're going to recognize all these other things can pass away. But if I don't have this right, if I'm not spiritually nourished, then I'm living in poverty. Regardless of what my life looks like on the outside, you fake it till for a while, and then you realize I really have nothing. And that's why it's so important that we take time as women, and everybody's kind of touched on this, that sometimes we neglect ourselves, but it's so important that we make that time. For myself, sometimes people find it a little bit intimidating. What does a prayer time look like? What does a quiet time look like? And I want to demystify all of those things because it's going to look different for every woman. I think it's important that we have the word and we have, times of prayer. But I have to rise earlier than everybody else in my family so that I can get that alone time, and I build little habits here and there. But a big part of my quiet time is journaling. Like this thing called reading. And basically, whenever there is a thought of negativity or insecurity, or maybe I get triggered by someone, I write that problem down. And I really let God reveal, well, why am I insecure when this happens? What did I not deal with from my childhood? And God really reveals those things to me. He'll reveal whether it's pride or whether it's, this self-mechanism of defense mechanism, that I've built up because of the trauma that I dealt with as a child. There's different things that God will bring up. So it's not overly sometimes people are like, well, I just can't make time for prayer because I don't understand the scriptures, or, I don't know how it's supposed to look. It's not really supposed to look like anything.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is just get alone. Jesus, he often withdrew to lonely places because of the demand that was on him, and that he wanted to take care of the first thing that was most important, which was his relationship with his heavenly Father, because that's the only way he was going to add value. And here's the thing. You don't need to feel guilty when you're taking time for yourself.
That's right. That's right.
And one thing that I have had to tell myself, because I like to be productive. I'm like, as soon as I wake up, my mind is going a million miles an hour. I've got, like my task in my head is already rolling. It's hard to turn it off when I go to bed. And so, but getting alone with God, I'm able to just quiet myself, invest in myself. And I recognize, when I'm taking that time, I'm not just investing in myself. I'm actually becoming a greater gift that I can give to other people. As I grow, I'm going to be a better mom, a better wife, a better pastor, better homeschool teacher, all of those things. So when I take time, there's even times during the day where I'm like, hey, y'all, I'm not available. I'm so sorry. I love you. But mommy is not available. You can go ask your dad. You can ask your dad. The dad that you just walked by to come talk to me, you can go back and ask him. Because mommy needs a moment. And you got to recognize that. And I would feel guilty sometimes, feeling like, oh man, you're so needy, Bianca. No, I'm just a person. And I am always pouring out. So it's okay to say, you know what, I'm going to take this time to pour in. Is it okay if I read the scripture? Because I was like, this is for us. I was reading in Proverbs 31, where it talks about the virtuous woman. And in verse 13, this is the Amplified version. Listen to what it says. It says, she equips herself. And then in parentheses, this is what equips means, with strength for spiritual, mental, and physical fitness for her God-given task.
What? Look at that. This is what we're talking about today.
And makes her arms strong. And I was like,
Exactly. Right here. This whole thing.
Yes.
It's wonderful. I love it. Wow. And so we learned today. I learned a lot. Oh my goodness, this is so wonderful. So I learned today that the three elements that we're talking about today, our mind, our body, our soul, spirit, it really does, as a whole person, directs the course of our lives. It determines how we see ourselves, how we love ourselves, because we as women have such a hard time. It's really easy for us to love others, our children, our man, our mothers. It's really easy for us to love our girlfriends, but it's much harder for us to love ourselves. And I think that we mistakenly think there's some vanity attached to that. That love ourselves, there's something distorted about that. There's something that says that, oh no, that you're conceited or you're vain, but it really isn't. Because I don't have the capacity to love anyone if I loathe myself. And I know that for certain reasons I lived like that. I lived in self-loathing and worthlessness and insecurities for decades.
Wow.
And even though, and it didn't stop me from really kind of caring for others, but I was crippling myself because I was so unhappy. And so me being unhappy and me feeling worthless, it really did it poured into the relationships that I had with other people. And when I started, the light really went off in my brain when I turned 50, because I was like, wait a minute, I have to begin to define and take the pencil across the pages of my life and define that I have worth and I have great value.
Absolutely.
And it's okay to love myself, and it's okay to take care of myself.
Yep, absolutely.
For years of not taking care of myself, for being frumpy, dumpy. For feeling sorry because I put weight on after I had kids, or I had a C-section and I didn't have the flat stomach I always had. All these superficial, they have value, but superficial things. But I know now at 56 years old, and once I turned 50, I was like, you know what, Lisa, you really need to start writing your script. I know that there's a master that has written already, but I really need.
He uses everything.
Yes, I really need to start going over his handwriting and determining this is who I am, and it's okay to love myself, because if I can love myself, I can better love my children, my husband, my friends, you ladies. I have so much more to give, and I'm not so broken and shattered into pieces. So I want to ask you ladies in closing, how do you find balance in the things that we talked about today? And if you're kind of off kilter in some areas, what have you learned today that can help you kind of make a little shift in your life? I'll start with Danielle.
Hi. Well, as you continue to talk about self-love, and I was even thinking of the word validation, just really, really looking, I think, first and foremost, to God, for what we find validation in, that's who we find our validation in. Just remembering that piece and truly paying attention to again, those physical signs of what's going on in our body, so that we can really tune into what we need. Knowing what we need, that self-discovery, that self-awareness. So we know when to take a break is so important. Remembering what your motives are for doing things, I think is huge. Making sure that we're first and foremost, living for God and doing what He's called us to do in our purpose. And just, truly remembering that self-worth does not come from the validation of others.
That's right.
That's, I think that, again, so many times, God, He really does orchestrate, who we need to look to, that within reach, within touch, the physical person, if we pay attention to them. Not everybody is for us, not everything is for us. So just trying to be in tune with what those things are. Malele, all right, I really feel like making an appointment with an actual professional OBGYN instead of a general practitioner might be something that's on my list to do, because yes, general is just that, they cover a lot of everything, but I need to specify. Miss Bianca, just, truly remembering that prayer and relationship with God is not legalistic. There's not a checklist that says you have to do all these things to be in relationship with Him, but truly just seeking His face and speaking His name can bring about so much. And it's considered a prayer just to say His name, Jesus.
Amen.
It's a prayer. Amen.
Yes, That's good. Malele.
Yes. Well, I think I would just want to encourage us all, here on the panel, and then just listening and watching as well, just to continue to advocate for our health and ourselves in a collaborative, thoughtful way with our healthcare providers. I mean, I think that's just going to gives us all the most information, the most satisfaction, the most results, to continue to ask those questions, to feel like when you leave the office that you've had the bulk of your questions answered, and if you need to make another appointment to discuss it further, because if the list is long, then sometimes you have to do that too. But to continue to be thoughtful and collaborative with our health and ourselves and our providers, I think is critical. And then just Danielle, I'm just going to continue to think about what brings me peace and joy, because I am in a transition in my life, in that, my babies are about to fly away. And that's a big deal for me. I mean, they really, so I have to rethink and revisit and just continue to constantly soul search there for myself to continue to make sure what brings me peace and joy, that I continue to do that. And then Bianca, I think and even Lisa, and also Lisa too, just your spiritual fire it just fills me up. And I know that in this space of this pandemic and this COVID, I have been, it's been separated from many of us. And to have this gift of hearing you all, and just that passion in your voices is helpful to me too. And so I'm so thankful for and Danielle, I can tell that your practice is undergirded with that faith. So I am thankful and grateful to just having been invited into this space with you ladies. And Alexis, I'm so proud of you, and just you are just a fantastic woman, and I am just so pleased to know you. So thank you all for just sharing your gifts with me today.
That's wonderful. Bianca?
Yes, I would love to just encourage everyone, if you're trying to grow spiritually, because I remember as a teenager looking at pastors thinking, I could never be that spiritual. Like I could never know that much of the word, because I didn't grow up in church. So I just felt like I was playing catch up. They would share stories of, when this happened in the Bible, and I was like, I don't know that. And I really spent a season of trying to play catch up. But, I want to say you don't have to feel that way, and take this idea of spending time with God and don't let it overwhelm you. Maybe just form one habit, one new habit. That's it. Maybe not focus on memorizing scripture just yet. Maybe you're just reading one verse that day, and just what does that mean to you? So that's what I would encourage. If you really want a vibrant spiritual life, create one habit at a time. Don't let it overwhelm you. Don't think about the 10 years from now version of yourself. Think about today. John Maxwell, he says, we overestimate what we can do in a day, and we underestimate what we do daily. And daily is what is important. So finding a routine where you're spending time every single day investing in your spiritual life. And it doesn't have to be 3 hours long. If you have 3 hours, more power to you. But if it's 10 minutes, just starting that thing that's unintimidating. It's like, I can always do 10 minutes, and remove all the friction so that you can get to that habit, because I believe it's going to connect with everything. And I've learned from each one of you ladies something. You have been a gift to me. God has unlocked some things in myself that I need to now go use, and I'm responsible and accountable for now. Malele, I am going to bring my notebook the next time I go to the doctor. Like, I'm such a nerd. Like, I take notes on everything, and I'm like, why am I not taking notes at the doctor? What is going on? So that's my way. I'm going to be like a student at the doctor's office. Here's my questions. Oh my goodness. And Danielle, thank you for just all that you do. And you challenged me. I'm not a natural counselor, but counseling is part of the pastoral responsibility. So I can just look at you, and your peace and your joy, like that you talk about, is like on full display. So the things that you practice is like, because I'm a pretty intense person. Like, I don't know if you can tell. And so I need people like you with your calmness and your gentleness. Like that's that. I need those moments. I need to be that.
A lot of that is truly a choice. When we start to feel all those thoughts and feelings come on, we have to decide, no. We're not going to allow that to run our day, steal our joy, control us.
Yes.
We have to cast it down and redirect. I always say deflect and redirect.
Yes. So before I let Alexis close our timeout, I want to tell you ladies that that this is a divine connection that we have here, and that I just feel like what I've gotten out of this conversation is that the great need for me to have that place of peace and calmness, Danielle, that you talked about, to make sure that I love myself enough that I am crossing all my T's and dotting all my I's with regard to my physical health. Asking questions. I've asked Malele questions today that I don't even remember if I asked her when I saw her at the doctor's office. But now you really go for it, girl. I got
Sorry, bring it on.
and then Bianca, what more can I say? I mean, you're just an inspiration. You truly are. And you're a light in a lot of our dark areas in our personal lives, in our personal walks. So you constantly inspire me and encourage me to walk forward and to pursue God in a deeper and profound way. And so I'm so thankful that each of you ladies are a part of my story now. You can't get away from me now. You're going to be forever tied to me. And so, and Alexis, like you, like Malele said, that I'm so incredibly proud of you. When I think of the woman that I was, years and years ago, I could have never imagined that I would be blessed to have someone like her as my child. It's like how on earth did I deserve this? How? So Alexis, you want to close this out, because I don't want to make y'all start crying, because I'm not going to.
Ladies, I just want to thank you so much, because this has been such an amazing episode. This has been an amazing journey. The Sister Talks thing has been a huge project that we undertook, and just hope that it goes full steam ahead, that we have you ladies on first in some kind of capacity again, because this has been so informative and so amazing. Just the conversation that we had about taking care of ourselves, taking care of our mind, our bodies, our souls, because it starts with us.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that we're doing what we need to do for ourselves to make sure that we can contribute to our world, walk in our purpose, and make sure that we are contributing 100% of ourselves to the things that we need to do on a daily basis. So thank you so much for all the things that you've contributed to this episode. This is actually our season finale.
Yes, it is.
This is the end of our first season, and we wanted to end with a bang. We wanted to end with something that our listeners and our watchers can take away from, and they can walk the next couple months that we won't be talking with them, and take that with them so that they can better their lives, that they can have something that's inspiration, that they can have something that's encouraging. And I think you ladies have definitely more than delivered on exactly that. So I want to thank you guys. We love you. We appreciate you so very much for coming on and blessing us in that kind of way. So that's it, ladies. This is our season finale. We will see you guys again in a few months. We definitely want to shout you guys out. We will tag you guys, and please let us know any future things that you have going on. We want to be a part of. We want to let our community know for sure the resources that they have. Bianca, I know you're all the way in Chicago, but definitely I'm pretty sure you're available virtually or online. Danielle, you're in the Atlanta area. Layla, you're definitely in the Atlanta area. So we want to give our ladies and listeners and our watchers all the resources that they can take care of themselves.
Yes. Yes. And we want to remind you ladies out there that we are going to have a challenge for the next 31 days. Is it going to start on? It's going to start on March the 1st. On March 1st. 31 days, we're going to be tagging each other in Sister Talks how we're nurturing our mind, body, and soul. We want to hear about it. We want to see you doing it. We want you to take pictures and video, because we want to celebrate how we love on ourselves, right?
Exactly. 31 days of self-care. That can be as simple as reading a new book. It can be as simple as starting a new exercise regimen, or just documenting the things that you already do for yourself. We want you to tag us, Sister Talks. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook, and just tell us what you've been doing to take care of yourself, mind, body, soul, whatever that means for you. We want it.
Yes. Well, love you. Thank you for joining
us.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Joining us on this episode of Sister Talks. We cannot begin to express the gratitude and appreciation for all of your love and all of your support that you've given us so far. If you've enjoyed this program, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube page. And if you feel so inclined, you can go ahead and support this show by clicking on the link below and giving any gift that you decide. You can also follow us on Instagram and also on Facebook, Sister Talks, and also hashtag Sisters Let's Talk for anything that is linked to us. Like it and share it to all your friends, ladies. We love you and thank you, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.